in that he is a Christian and I am not. I was a Christian for years. I grew up, was raised a Christian, but after my brother's death, I stopped believing. And, but I have always been happy that I was raised as a Christian and that I feel like the moral code that my parents raised me with has made me a better person. The moral compass that religion provided me stayed with me even as I walked away from the faith. And so I really didn't follow him because so much of his interactions with people was he referenced his Christianity in so much of those interactions, and I viewed him more as a evangelist than I did a politician. He obviously was not a politician, though he supported the Conservative Party. And I think his ultimate motive was to win young people to the conservative side. I think it was also to win young people to Christianity. So I think he had multiple motives, but I was not aligned on the Christian side of that, and thus never really followed him. However, I will tell you that it did affect me. His death did affect me, and maybe it was because I saw the video of the actual shooting. For those of you that saw it, you know what I'm talking about. It is graphic, and it's hardly more graphic than things we have seen on the movies, but I think knowing that it was not a movie, knowing that it was real life, it impacted me in a emotional way. Also because he had a family. He was unarmed. He was being peaceful. He wasn't hurting anybody. And it just seemed unfair. And definitely undeserved. Even though I didn't agree with things that he said, I wouldn't wish that upon him. So, this isn't like I am a Charlie Kirk fan and sitting here and going to give you my thoughts as someone coming from someone that was a fan of his. I wasn't. We may have been aligned politically on a lot of things, a lot of topics, but philosophically, we were not aligned. As far as theology, we were not aligned. I do want to comment on some of the initial reactions from both sides. I saw a lot of reaction from the right talking about this is war and calls for retaliation. Fortunately, we have not seen that, and I think that was an initial reaction out of shock by a lot of people. They wanted someone to pay, and I think had the shooter not been caught, maybe there would be more of that going on. have seen the most vile things in response to that, and it's disheartening. However, I have to believe that it is a French minority that is out there doing those types of things in a country of 350 million people. Even if 1 million people are doing it, it's still a small minority doing it, you know? And I think that when we look at the political division of left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, we have on a scale, you know, you have the far right, you have the far left, and you have the middle. And I truly believe the majority of us are in the middle. You have a dividing line. And if you're on each side here, pretty close to the middle, we're all relatively close to aligned. I think the majority of all of us, we want the same things. No matter what side you are on, you want to be safe. You want to have a place to live. You want to be able to afford your groceries. You want to be able to have dependable transportation. You want your family to be safe. Both people on both sides of the aisle share more in common than they do have differences. Do you understand that? If you are this extreme and you want the end of capitalism, you want pure socialism, you want everybody to have the exact same thing, you want there to be no millionaires, no billionaires, you don't want people to go to prison for anything. I mean, this is the extreme far left, and on the extreme far right, you have the racist, the white supremacist that believes that, you know, all black people should be sent back to Africa or worse. You believe that any other race than the white race should not be here. So we have these ideological extremes in both parties. And both of them are wrong. The problem is the media amplifies these voices, and they amplify these voices, but they are not representative of the majority of all of us. If you are a purple-haired, septum-wearing liberal, you share more in common with the guy down the road wearing a MAGA hat than you do with either of these two extreme ideologies in the things that you want. You also share more in common with the people on the opposite side of the center line than you do with Sean Hannity or Rachel Maddow. These people are multi-millionaires that work very little, that all they do is spout negativity all night long. They spread venom. They spread hate. they win. And I believe it is that left versus right is an illusion, because we do truly want the same things. Now, I'm not discounting that we do have differences. We do. There are differences, even if you take the dead center line and you take the first person on this side and the first person on this, there are differences. Abortion being one, okay? But these are problems, these are specific social issues that we can find compromise to. None of us will get our way, but the only answer is to find compromise. There is no perfection in a country as diverse as America. We find compromise. That's what we do. Immigration is another one. Some of us think that the border should just be open and we shouldn't even ask anybody that's coming across. Just leave it open and whatever happens, happens. And some people want to just close it and not let anybody in illegally, only allow legal immigration. We had an election that had that as its primary focus. And because of that, the winning party gets to implement what they feel is the right thing. It's like, we know what the law is. The law states you cannot come in illegally. But one party lets them in anyway, without vetting, without knowing anything. And the other party is not allowed to make them leave. That to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Does that make logical sense to you? So, in essence, if the left wins the next time, they can open the border back up and let them back in. But because that's one we have not solved, we have not found a compromise on. We just go back and forth. The first administration of Trump, he built part of the wall that he could and he enforced border laws. The left comes in and they relax the rules and they let more people in. Trump gets back in and the border's locked up again. We have got to find a compromise to this, to stop with the stupidity. And it's possible to come up with a resolution. The point being that we have differences, but these are just opinions. These are just social experiments. These are just thoughts. We have way more in common than we have difference. Why? If you were talking to somebody and you were having this different, I think the border should be open, well, I think the border should be closed. Why would this explode into some hate? Why would that escalate to the level of hate? The reason it escalates is because of the constant echo chamber we listen to in the media, on our algorithms on social media. We are fed these messages of hate meant to divide us. Why? Why would the media do this? Why? What would be the reasoning? Why would they want us to hate each other? Who has a vested interest in us hating each other? We, you and me, we don't win when we hate each other. Who wins when we hate? donation records, their public records, they give to Democrats and to the Republicans. Why? Because they win either way. It doesn't matter to them. Because they keep this going. If you and me are fighting each other, guess who we're not fighting? We're not fighting the people that are taking advantage of us. We're not fighting them saying, hey, how come you've got money to fight all these wars, but you don't have money to fix our streets? Or you don't have money to give us free health care? Why can you give all this money to Ukraine, but you cannot give us free health care? You see, if we are fighting each other, we won't fight them. We won't fight the system. We won't unite and join forces with each other to truly get the things done that would make all of our lives better. That's why they do what they do. It's called a PSYOP, and it is well known, and it is well written, and it is a textbook game plan. Step 1, isolate the audience. Isolate who you want to give this message to. And step 2, pump them full of outrage. Feed them the worst of the worst. Make them see the fringe of the other side. That's what you're going to see on MSNBC and CNN. They're going to show the worst of the right. You go to Fox News, they're going to show the worst of the left. They're not going to show you your next door neighbor. They're going to show you the fringe. Same thing with TikTok and Instagram. You're going to see the worst. The videos you scroll through, they're the extreme. Why? Because as humans, that's what we are wired up to be engaged with. Moderate things aren't very exciting, but extreme things, oh my God, send that to a friend. Did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? That's what we do. They know we are wired for the extreme. And that locks us into this tribal thinking where it's us versus them, or it's us versus, it's right versus left, when it's not. It should be us, all of us versus them. The system that is broken. And if ever we could finally unite together, do you know what we would be capable of? Do you know what we could accomplish? We could fix every problem. We could fix everything. We could live glorious lives. We could stop the ridiculous inequality in pay. Used to, a CEO didn't make maybe 20 times less than or more than a normal employee. Today, they make thousands of times more than a normal employee. I've spoke a lot about the fact that it's okay to have people richer than you. It really is. But again, in this toxic culture we have, instead of hating the multi-millionaires and the billionaire executives that are taking everything, you hate your neighbor that's got a nicer car than you. Right? It's unbelievable. That's not where the hate belongs. Truly, hate doesn't belong in our lives anyway. Hate is destroying us. And that is what the media is driving us to. The media makes us hate. They make us hate each other. It's because if we hate each other, we won't be focused on them. I want to reiterate the point that you share more in common with the guy down the road that voted differently than you, or the woman down the road that voted differently than you, or the woman down the road that's too preoccupied to even vote, than you do with these covert elites, these CEOs and mega donors and media anchors like Sean Hannity, Rachel Maddow. These people are toxic, and they are spreading toxicity into our world. They're wicked. They're evil. I think they make like $20 million a year to talk to us, to feed us garbage. The best thing we can do is shut that garbage off. The other thing you can do is, in your algorithm, you can dislike things. You can say, do not show me any more video, at least on YouTube. I'm not on TikTok, but I know on YouTube, if you get a video that you don't think is appropriate, you can click on it and you can say, do not show me any more videos like this. And it won't. So you can adjust your algorithm to get the hate out of it. The rules, this PSYOP engagement that is going on in the media is no different than a cult. Because step one is to isolate you. Do not talk to the other side. Do not date them. Do not hang around them. Do not be friends with them. Isolation is number one. It's no different than a cult. A cult would have you do the same thing. Don't. If you're a Muslim, the infidels are the others. Be careful around them. You can try to win them over, but in the end, be careful. The cult teaches hate. Number two is the echo chamber. Everything that you watch, if you're on the left, you're only going to watch MSNBC and CNN. You're not going to watch Fox News. You're not going to watch News Nation. You're not going to watch these other channels that you know will be giving you a different message. You want an echo chamber? Confirm my thoughts. Confirm my thoughts. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. Yes, you're right. You want to hear that you're right, not that you're wrong. Same if you're on the right. All you're gonna do is you're gonna listen to the media that's on the right. You're gonna listen to the things that confirm your bias, confirm your thoughts. You hear the thoughts from these media personalities about using extreme language like threat to democracy. This might be our final election. This is the most important election of our lifetimes. This guy's like Hitler. This guy's a fascist. All of this horrible rhetoric. It creates hate. It creates monsters. It created the guy that killed Charlie Kirk. But I want you to think about the people that have been assassinated. Abraham Lincoln. Was he a bad guy? No. He freed the slaves, right? Doing something good, and he gets killed. JFK. Did he get killed because he was evil and wicked? No. He got confetti and he was killed. Reagan was elected in the largest landslide in the history of our nation. He had the highest percent electoral count of any president in history. And he was killed. He was peace. He ended the Cold War. He didn't die, but he was shot. And Charlie, he didn't deserve it. He was doing the right thing. I didn't agree with everything that he said, but he was going about it the right way on how to convince people to come to your side. He was doing it peacefully. He was going to where he knew people did not agree with him. I want to ask you, because it's one thing interesting I've noticed. Do you see the other side doing that? Going to where they know the right congregates to try to change their minds and doing something different. He was basically going into the lion's den. He was going there knowing that on college campuses, if you want to say where is the highest percentage of Marxists in the nation, it's on college campuses. Why is that? I don't know. Why do college kids love Karl Marx? It's like they're taught to love him in college. I don't understand, but it is what it is. Ultimately, I just feel like we are all being played. We are all being played in this horrible, nasty game that we don't win. You and me, the guy next door, none of us win. Your mom, your uncle, we don't win. They win. They keep us hating each other, which keeps them winning. And it's time that we said enough is enough. No more hate. We can disagree, but we've got to find a way to do it peacefully. You know, this guy, he was living with a trans person that is a man transitioning to be a woman and was also a furry. And in my opinion, I don't agree with that. I think it's a mental illness. I think it is impossible for a man to know what a woman feels like. So when a man says, I feel like a woman, I think to myself, how would you even know? It's like saying, I feel like I'm a penguin. Well, I have no clue what a penguin even feels like. I don't know what it's like to be a penguin. So how can I even say that I know what it's like to be one? And I can imagine it is very different to be a woman than it is a man. I couldn't even remotely imagine what it's like to be a woman. You know, to have the ability to carry a child, to have, you have monthly things to deal with that men do not. I can't imagine, and I know that no man can either know that. Same with a woman. There's no way a woman truly knows what it feels like to be a man. I know what it feels like to be a man, but I know there's no woman that knows what it feels like. Now, she might be able to relate, and she might have empathy, but she can't know. And I think it's a disease, you know. And that's my belief. Now, other people believe it's just that gender is just something we invented, that chromosomes mean nothing, and we just invented a social construct called gender, and you can be whatever you want. And that's an extreme difference. However, it's not extreme enough for me to hate you. If you believe that, I don't hate you. I actually sympathize with you. I feel sorry. I worry about you. I wish I could fix it. But I don't hate. I would never hurt you. And honestly, because this is America, I just think to myself, you're free to believe, you're free to be that. If you're a man and you want to wear a dress and you want to grow your hair long and put makeup on, I don't care. I don't. But when you try to force me to call you a woman, it crosses a line that now you're infringing on my rights. I'm not infringing on yours. You can say, you can be whatever you want. You can wear whatever you want. And you can call yourself whatever you want. You just can't make me do it. And that, I think, should be the trans compromise. You can do it. You can be it. You can call yourself whatever. But you can't force other people to do it. And you can't go to the bathroom with a 6-year-old girl. You just can't. And you can't play on that team's sports. So there's just certain things, again, that you can't infringe on other people's rights to change yours. There was a woman who faked being black. Rachel was her first name. I don't remember her last name, but for a lot of years, and she worked for the NAACP, and finally she was exposed, and it came out that she was deceiving people and getting jobs and preferential treatment for something that she wasn't. That should not be allowed, and she got punished for it. She lost her job. Because again, if she wanted to say it and do it, that's fine, but you can't get jobs. You can't, it's like, this is like Elizabeth Warren claimed to be an Indian, and I think she got a college job because of her Indian heritage, but then when they tested her DNA, she had like a minuscule amount of Indian heritage. She's basically no more Indian than anyone, so she wasn't entitled to that. But if she wanted to call herself an Indian, that's fine. Freedom allows us. Freedom is dangerous. It allows a lot of things that probably shouldn't be allowed, but we cannot let it divide us. We cannot let these things tear us apart. We have got to find common ground. We have got to focus on the things that unite us. There are way more things that we all want the same thing on than there are the things that we want that are different. That is what we should focus on. And never, ever let your differences become hate. Because if it does, eventually we are going to destroy ourselves. And I would just like to say one other point when it comes to reactions, because if you notice that after Charlie died, there were no riots. As many people were affected, you had an entire civilization, an entire half of the country that considers themselves to be right and felt like one of their side that if one of their elite, let's say Obama, I don't like to use that example because he was actually a politician. David Pakman, I would say if you're on the left, you probably know who he was. If he was speaking somewhere and was assassinated, do you think there would have been riots? Do you think there would have been massive protests staged and, looting, things like that? That's where I feel like there's a big difference now. Some might revert back to January 6th and, something happened for 4 or 5 hours, however long that thing lasted, but they didn't burn the place down. I'm not defending it, believe me. I'm just saying that there is a difference, and I do feel like one side is more violent than the other. Obama never had an assassination attempt, neither did Biden. Nobody tried to assassinate Kamala when she was running. But Trump had 2 attempts. And now we have this. We have the school that got shot up with the guy that wrote all the evil things on the bullets and on the clips for his weapons. I do believe there's one side that is being a little bit more violent, so I would say we all, both sides, right and left, need to hear this message that peace and no hate needs to be the rule of the day. But I do believe that the left has a bigger hate problem, and I think it's because their media has been far worse than the right's. The right's is bad, theirs is bad. But the left, I believe, is far more hateful and has facilitated more hate. And so I hope that the example of seeing the reaction of the right can set an example for the left to understand, and that they can feel that something needs to change, that the temperature must be lowered on both sides. Because we made it through this in one piece. But if it happens again, I don't know that we will. And I don't want it to happen. I want to live in peace. I don't want to have to live through a civil war. I don't want to have to live like that. I don't want to have to defend my life by taking someone else's. I really don't. And I don't think you do either. I don't think you want to live in a world where the grocery stores are empty and you have no electricity and you have no plumbing, because that's what's coming if we don't find a way to stop this hate. Many will not survive it. We have a great country. We live in the best time ever to be alive. We have an unbelievable, amazing future if we unite together and find a way to get through this just wicked time that we've been in. It has been a wicked time of just great division. I mean, there's always going to be disagreements, but we don't have to hate. I'm just asking you guys, please reach out to somebody that you disagree with and let them know that, hey, I want you to know I'm making an effort not to be as hateful or divisive as I may have been if you've done something to hurt somebody. I think it's worth a try. It's what I'm gonna do. It's what I've done with my channel. If you've noticed, like, I don't talk about this stuff anymore. I don't want to spread division. I want to spread love and unity. I want us all to get along. I want us all to be happy. It's like, think about ASMR. I promise you there are probably equal amounts of people on the right and people on the left that use ASMR. We all want it. We share that in common. We all like to get tingles, right? We share that. It's part of who we are. Why would we let our stupid disagreements on the border or abortion or trans rights, whether trans is a disease or not, why would we let the climate is another one. I've been alive long enough that the earth was supposed to be destroyed about 10 or 12 years ago. I've lived through we've got 7 years to go. Al Gore, I think, gave us 7 or 8 years to live about 35 years ago. So, but we can't let these things that we disagree on divide us any longer. If Charlie's kids and wife, they lost a husband and a father, but I hope that his passing can be some sort of final nail in the coffin for the atrocious division that we've been living through, and that maybe, just maybe, we can all finally unite as a people, a civil people that love each other, but we have disagreements that we work through compromise, not through hate and violence. All of our problems are fixable. We just gotta figure it out, you know. And if you're not in a position of power, it really just does no good. It really does no good to hate and to fight about it, because you can't change it anyway. Do you think that this guy shooting Charlie Kirk is going to change anything in relation to the trans and furry movement? No. It won't. If anything, it could have made it worse for the people that are extreme. They'll just hate them even more. The far right will just hate trans even more. It just doesn't do any good, but we in the center can drown out these fringe elements of our parties. If you're on the left, drown out these negative monsters. If you're on the right, drown out these negative monsters. And together, the rest of us can live an amazing life together in peace. How's that sound?